She looked at me too long for it to be casual. That was the first thing I noticed, her eyes lingering when everyone else's moved past. It wasn't bold, not exactly. More like she was testing whether I would notice the way her gaze stayed with me, whether I would flinch, whether I would look away. I didn't. There are women who take up a room without trying. She was one of them. Mid-40s, maybe, with that air of self-possession that only comes from years of being looked at, of learning which attention to allow and which to shut down. Her laugh carried just enough restraint to make you want to hear it again. And when she brushed past me, only her sleeve grazing mine, I felt it like heat. We were sitting closer than we should have been, not by design but by circumstance. A corner booth, one chair left, the kind of dim lighting that softens everything. The air smelled faintly of coffee and something citrusy from her perfume. "Do you always watch people this way?" she asked, eyes narrowing with a trace of a smile. My throat caught. "Only when they make it hard not to." She tilted her head, considering me, as if the answer was too simple. She had this quiet authority about her, like she could end a conversation with a single look, but also like she wanted to see how far I'd push. Her fingers tapped the edge of her glass. Nothing impatient, just measured. I couldn't stop following the movement, how deliberate it was, as though she was aware of every part of her body and what effect it might have. "You're young," she said finally. Not an insult. Just fact. "And you're—" I stopped, caught between too many words. Beautiful, magnetic, dangerous. None of them would come out right. "Unreachable," I finished, though it came softer than I intended. Something shifted in her then, subtle as the pause before rain. Her lips parted like she might respond, but she didn't. Instead, she let silence sit between us. That silence did more than any words could, it tightened everything. My chest, the air, the space between her hand and mine on the table. I swear she moved closer, though maybe it was only the dimness playing tricks. Her shoulder brushed mine, deliberate this time. I didn't move away. "You make me lose control," she said suddenly, her voice lower, almost like she was confessing to herself rather than me. The words caught fire in my chest. I turned to her, trying to catch her expression, but she looked straight ahead, eyes fixed on nothing. "Then surrender to me," I said before I had time to weigh the danger of it. That broke her composure. She drew in a sharp breath, finally looking at me. There it was, the flicker of something raw, unguarded. Her hand shifted on the table, brushing the back of mine. Not quite a touch, but close enough that my skin tingled. I wanted to close the space, to let her fingers rest against mine, but I didn't. Not yet. The room felt too quiet. Even the clink of cups and low hum of voices around us faded, like the world understood it wasn't supposed to interrupt. But then, the door opened. A gust of cool night air rushed in, pulling her hair across her cheek. She pulled back just slightly, as if the spell had been cracked, and the moment hovered, unfinished, unspoken, impossible to ignore. She didn't look at me again after the door opened. Her eyes followed the draft instead, like she needed an excuse to pull herself back from where we'd nearly gone. I tried not to stare at her mouth, the way her lips pressed into a line before softening again. I'd always been bad at hiding things. She, on the other hand, looked like a woman who had spent years perfecting it. "You shouldn't say things like that," she murmured finally. "Like what?" Her hand tightened on her glass, a faint clink of ice. "Like surrender." The word lingered between us. My pulse wouldn't slow. I wanted to ask her why it scared her, or if it tempted her. Instead I asked, "Have you always been this careful?" That made her laugh, quiet and short. Not mocking but rueful. "Careful? You mean guarded?" I didn't answer, but she must have seen it in my face. Her gaze softened for the first time. "I used to believe in wild things," she said. "Once. But marriage, years of pretending, it trains you out of it." Her voice caught on that word, marriage. She didn't elaborate, but she didn't need to. I saw the shadow there. Loneliness, maybe? The kind that sinks so deep it changes your posture. "You don't strike me as someone who pretends," I said. She smiled at that, faint and almost sad. Then you don't know me very well. Maybe not. But I knew enough. I knew that when she leaned closer to adjust her scarf, the brush of her shoulder against mine lasted a second too long. I knew the warmth of her breath on my neck when she asked if I wanted another coffee. I knew she didn't have to touch me at all, but she did, in fleeting, almost deniable ways. And I knew I shouldn't want it this badly. Not from her. Not with everyone watching. She caught me staring again, and instead of pulling away, she held the gaze. A silent standoff. I wondered if she could see how much I wanted her, if she recognized herself in that hunger. People would talk, she said, barely above a whisper. They already do. My voice was steadier than I felt. She exhaled, looking at me like she wished I hadn't said that. But then, almost against her own will, she let her fingers rest on my arm. Just the weight of them. Light. Testing. I froze. Not out of discomfort, but because the touch was so simple, so devastating, I didn't want to risk breaking it. For a moment neither of us spoke. Her thumb shifted the smallest degree, brushing fabric, then stilling again. The air between us was fragile, trembling. I knew if I reached out, just slightly, she wouldn't stop me. But I didn't. I let her touch linger, and I let it end on her terms. When she finally pulled her hand back, she didn't look away. And the silence we shared then was louder, more binding, than anything we could have said aloud. The room had thinned out, the air heavy with coffee and low conversations. She shifted closer to me in the booth, just enough that her knee brushed mine beneath the table. I almost said her name, but before I could. Hey! A voice behind me. I turned startled. A friend from class stood there, eyes darting between us. Her hand slid off my arm instantly, retreating like it had never been there. Her posture straightened, her smile quick and practiced. You two know each other? My friend asked. Her pause was too long. We've talked, she said lightly, as if it were nothing. I forced a laugh. Yeah, just coffee. My friend nodded, distracted by the barista calling his name. He left as quickly as he came, but the interruption left a crack in the moment. She exhaled sharply. See? That's what I mean. People notice. Her words cut, but I leaned in anyway, my voice low. So let them. Her eyes widened, heat and warning in them at once. She didn't move back. The silence between us stretched. My chest rose too quickly, hers did too. Every small sound, the clink of a spoon, the buzz of a phone, felt like it could shatter what we were holding together. Her hand reached for her bag, but instead of lifting it, her fingers curled against the table edge, knuckles white. Why are you doing this? She whispered. I swallowed. Because I can't not. She closed her eyes at that, as if the truth of it hit too close. When she opened them again, she was inches from me. I could feel her breath, warm and unsteady, brushing my cheek. Her gaze dropped, to my mouth, then back to my eyes. My hand twitched, wanting to close the gap, but guilt pressed down hard. She was older, careful, carrying things I didn't understand yet. I could see it in the way her jaw tightened, the way her lips trembled without moving. We can't, she murmured, though she didn't finish the sentence. But she didn't move away either. The world outside the booth felt far off now. The glow of the cafe lights blurred around her hair, her skin. Her shoulder pressed mine, her thigh against my leg. The small, charged points of contact burned more than a kiss ever could. I shouldn't want this, she said, almost to herself. Then don't, I said, but my voice betrayed me, shaking, pleading. Her lips parted. She leaned in, then stopped. Just close enough that I could taste the space between us, the breath that wasn't quite shared. We didn't kiss. But the pause itself became unbearable, binding. And when the door chimed again, announcing another customer, she finally drew back a fraction, though not enough to break the closeness. We sat there, bodies still aligned, faces inches apart. Trying to resist. Failing. The danger of it only made us lean closer. Why heavy checkmark prompt 4, nearing the climax, maximum tension, 500 words, writing prompt, push the romantic and sensual tension to its highest point. Instructions: one character reaches a breaking point, desire, fear, or jealousy surfaces. Include confession, confrontation, or a moment that can't be undone. Describe their closeness in sensory terms: a hand brushing hair from her face, the feel of her leaning against him, his voice low near her ear. Keep the reader breathless. Will they or won't they? End right on the edge of a major turning point, a kiss about to happen, a sudden interruption, a bold line spoken. It was late when I found her again, outside the cafe this time, leaning against the brick wall as though she needed the night air to steady herself. The streetlights cut sharp shadows across her face. "You shouldn't follow me," she said without looking. "You knew I would." Her silence confirmed it. She finally turned, eyes darker than the sky behind her. For the first time, I noticed her hands trembling as she tucked her hair back, as though even that simple gesture betrayed her. "I lied," she said, voice low and rushed, like if she didn't spill it now, she never would. My chest tightened. "About what?" She glanced around, empty street, quiet hum of traffic far off. Still, she lowered her voice further. "My marriage. It isn't over." "Not really." The air between us shifted, sharp and dangerous. I stepped back, though I couldn't tear my eyes from her. "You told me, I know." She cut me off, her throat tightening. "We're separated, yes. But not divorced. He still calls. He still shows up sometimes." Her confession landed heavy, not because I judged her, but because it made every glance, every brush of her hand, feel like crossing a line far bolder than I'd imagined. I wanted to move toward her, to erase the space I'd put between us. Instead, my fingers curled into fists at my sides. "You should have told me." My voice came out hoarse. "I wanted to," she said. Then softer. "But I wanted this more." The honesty hit me harder than the lie. Her body angled toward mine unconsciously, as though her heart hadn't caught up to the danger in her words. I stepped closer without meaning to, close enough that our coats brushed. She flinched, not away, but forward, like her body had betrayed her, reaching even as her mind screamed retreat. Her breath stuttered. "This is reckless." "Then stop me." She didn't. Her hand lifted, almost touched my chest, then froze in the air. Inches from contact. The heat of it still reached me. "I can't," she whispered. The way she said it, it wasn't surrender, it was confession. Her hand dropped, brushing my side as she pulled it back, leaving fire in its wake. For a long moment, neither of us moved. The city hummed quietly around us, indifferent. My pulse thundered loud enough I was sure she could hear it. Then her phone buzzed. A name lit up the screen she tried to hide. I caught only a glimpse, but it was enough, his name. The world tilted again. She silenced it quickly, shoving the phone deep into her bag, but not before I saw the guilt in her eyes. "This changes nothing," she said too fast. But it changed everything. I leaned in, so close my lips brushed the air near her ear. "It changes everything." And I knew, in that moment, she wouldn't run. Not tonight. We didn't mean to end up at her place. It was supposed to be a walk, nothing more, just enough to cool the storm that her confession had stirred. But the night air pushed us closer, and her silence didn't send me away. When she unlocked her door, she didn't tell me to wait outside. The living room was dim, only the lamp by the couch on. Books stacked haphazardly, a half-drained glass of wine left from earlier. The intimacy of her space wrapped around me, heavier than the perfume she wore. She closed the door slowly, back against it as if holding herself up. Her eyes found mine in the half-light, wide and searching. "We shouldn't," she started. But the words cracked, unfinished. I stepped toward her, just one pace. The distance between us was unbearable now, stretched thin with all the nights of holding back. "Then say it," I whispered. "Say you don't want this." Her breath shuddered. She didn't say it. Another step. I could feel the warmth rolling off her skin now. Her hands tightened against the door, nails pressing wood, her whole body taut between retreat and surrender. "You don't understand," she murmured. "If I give in, you already have." The truth of it landed between us. Her eyes closed, like the weight of it was too much to bear, then opened again with something raw, unguarded. Our foreheads nearly touched. I could feel her breath catch, quick, uneven, spilling against my lips though they hadn't met yet. My hand lifted, hesitated, then settled lightly at her waist. The tremor that went through her told me everything her words couldn't. Her voice fell to a whisper, breaking. "You make me forget everything I promised myself." I leaned closer, so close the line between restraint and ruin blurred. "Then forget." The pause before it happened stretched into eternity. A heartbeat, another. My lips grazed hers, not yet a kiss, but enough that the world tilted and nothing else mattered. Her hands finally let go of the door, rising to my shoulders, trembling. Not pulling me closer, not pushing me away, just there, claiming the space that had always been forbidden. When our mouths finally met, it wasn't polished or careful. It was messy, desperate, human. Years of her restraint clashing with my hunger. Every breath, every shift of her body against mine was confession and denial all at once. But then she broke it, pulling back, just slightly, her forehead still against mine. Her chest heaved, her lips still parted, her hands fisted in my shirt. "We can't undo this," she whispered. "I don't want to." Her eyes searched mine, desperate for certainty, terrified of it too. Then something softened. For the first time, I saw her stripped of every shield. And in that silence, in that closeness, we both knew the choice had already been made. The world felt different after the kiss, like the ground beneath us had shifted. We stayed there by the door, still pressed close, her hands clutching my shirt as if letting go would undo what had already happened. When she finally pulled back, it wasn't far. Just enough to breathe. Her eyes glistened in the lamplight, full of everything she hadn't been able to say. "I don't know how to be this version of myself anymore," she whispered. I touched her hand, gently prying her fingers from my shirt only to lace them with mine. "Then let me learn it with you." The silence that followed wasn't heavy this time. It was fragile, tender, full of the first warmth after a storm. She didn't answer right away, but her thumb brushed over my knuckles, slow and deliberate, like she was trying to memorize the shape of this choice. She guided me toward the couch. We sat close, too close for friends, too close for caution, but not tangled yet. Just two people, shoulders touching, hands joined, breathing the same quiet air. "You're young," she said again, softer this time. "And you're afraid," I answered. Her lips curved barely. "You make everything sound simple." "It is." She laughed under her breath, shaking her head. But she didn't let go of my hand. She leaned back, her shoulder resting against mine, and for a moment neither of us spoke. The age gap, the marriage not yet finished, the fear of being seen, it was all still there. But sitting in that dim room, the only thing that mattered was the way she finally let her head rest against me, the way her body softened like she'd been holding her breath for years and only now exhaled. I pressed a kiss to her hairline, not urgent, not demanding. Just a promise. She closed her eyes at the touch, her grip tightening on my hand. "Maybe this ruins us," she murmured. "Or maybe it saves us," I said. Her eyes opened again, searching mine, and in them I saw something I hadn't seen before, not just desire, not just fear, but trust. Fragile, tentative, but real. She leaned in once more, slow this time, no rush. Her lips met mine again, softer than before, filled with something steadier. Not surrender. Not recklessness. Choice. When we pulled apart, we stayed close, foreheads pressed together, breaths mingling. Neither of us said anything else. We didn't need to. The doubts were still out there, waiting. But in that room, in that moment, we had already decided, together was worth it. And for the first time, the silence between us felt safe.